What's up, my dear boys and girls, it's your Ranger here, and welcome to, let's say, a discussion video which might end up a little controversial thanks to the title in itself. But you will understand by the time you have watched the video. Really sorry for the late upload, guys, but I promised you that at the same time I'm also working on some other videos as well. But it's just so long. So in the meantime, I want to discuss one topic which has been floating around in the community for a long time, but nobody really found a concrete answer to it. Why exactly does Sun and Moon Ash feel so different from any other version of Ash before? And no, I'm not talking about the animation or the art style. So if you want to know more, then grab some popcorn, grab some cookies, and let's do this. If there's one thing I can say about Sun and Moon Ash is that when it comes to his overall competence as a trainer, he still is as good as ever. Character-wise, he might appear a little bit goofy, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with Ash himself, but more so with the overall change of direction of the Sun and Moon series compared to XY, from an intense and dramatic arc to a more lighthearted and comedic one. But wait, hold on. If neither his battling skills nor his character has changed, then what exactly has changed besides the art style? This is just a theory of mine, guys, so please don't take it seriously, but what in my opinion has drastically changed and why Sun and Moon Ash feels so different from any other version of Ash before are his relationships. Let's look back at Ash's relationships with his former companions and rivals, and let's focus on especially his role in all of this. I think we can all agree that for the majority of the anime, Ash always had somewhat of a mentor role towards his female companions. Mei learned a lot from Ash, but ended up copying a lot of his habits, and therefore had to separate herself from Ash and the others to find her own style.
The truth is, Mei's strategy looks a lot like the strategy you always use, Ash.
Huh?
You love dazzling attacks. So far, Soledad's been winning that way too.
Okay.
Mei's been watching you battle for a long time now, so you can't blame her for being influenced.
Dawn also took a lot of inspirations from Ash, but didn't necessarily copy his attitude, because thanks to her very high confidence at the beginning of her journey, she got cocky many times and therefore separated herself from her environment very early on. But as a result of her failures, she decided to go back to the basics by learning a lot from her environment, including Ash and Brock. The exceptions of course are Misty and Iris, because both of them, for the most part of the series, rather look down on Ash's attitude of being immature, rather than learning something from him. Then let's look at the rivals of Ash. Gary looked down on Ash and mocked him at the beginning of his journey, but the more they both advanced further in their story, the more both learned to respect each other. Paul, on the other hand, was the extreme of Gary's negative character traits, constantly looking down on him, to the point where he just despised everything Ash stood for. And that attitude didn't change until the very near end of their rivalry. And Trip, I mean, he was basically the same as Paul, only less convincing and more ridiculously cheesy. Oh, you're such a boonie, go back to Kanto where you belong. Ugh. But Long, you never mentioned Carlos. What is all that about? The special thing about Ash's relationship to both his Carlos companions and his rivals is that instead of being looked down at or being there as a source of knowledge, they did the direct opposite. All of them admired the guy and didn't learn anything from Ash from a battling point of view, but more from an attitude one. Unlike Mei and Dawn, Serena never intended to learn anything from Ash in regards of battling, but even more than the two other girls, Serena fully made Ash's attitude towards difficult situations her own. And while being totally inspired by that attitude of never giving up until the very end, hashtag almost shipping for the world, sorry guys, I had to do this, she discovered her own story. Neither Ash's knowledge of battling nor habits have formed her, but from the very beginning it was Ash's attitude and morals he represented. Same goes with Clement. Even when he barely met Ash, he immediately got infected by his attitude, and thanks to that, also adapted this attitude to his own, to overcome problems. That's why he was so innerly conflicted when their gym battle was about to happen, because he learned so much from Ash and looked up to the guy with such a passion that he was scared of disappointing him and even went so far to separate himself from the gang. Bonnie clearly looks up to Ash as well, but not as much as she does to either Clement or Serena. But that's not really because Bonnie can't learn anything from Ash, but it's more because Ash sometimes acts as childish as Bonnie. So in a weird way, they're kinda on the same wave. And then we have the rivals, and even those guys are seeing Ash as some sort of role model. The most obvious one of course is Sawyer, the first ever rival of Ash, where you could see that he has the utmost respect and admiration for Ash, always follows his footsteps with the hope of one day surpassing his hero. That's why Ash felt so pressured during his gym battle with Wulfric, because he knew that Sawyer was looking up to him and he promised him a challenge. Then we have Alan, and that guy clearly doesn't really need to learn anything from Ash battling wise, but even a quiet guy like him, who for the most time tries to push away his beloved people, got infected by Ash's attitude. He got so infected by Ash's attitude that he gained gym badges and entered the league, only to once again battle against Ash, because he enjoyed Ash's battling style and his way of thinking. Before he battled Ash, he visibly was bored as fuck when he fought against the other trainers. And now with all that out of the way, how did all this change Ash and therefore make Sun and Moon Ash different from any other version of Ash before? Just look at Ash's current companions. The difference between them and the others is that they neither look down on him, nor do they learn anything from him. They are independent right from the start. They have other things to do. Some of them have other responsibilities. Some of them, they just don't see the point in being inspired by Ash, because that wouldn't help their own story. It somewhat feels like the original series and Black and White, only with even less connection between Ash and his friends. Because they are not together 24/7. They don't travel around different kind of locations 24/7. They have separated locations and homes they belong to. And maybe that's the reason why Ash feels so different, because he doesn't need to be anything anymore. He doesn't need to be a role model. He doesn't need to be a mentor. He doesn't need to be a rival. He's just there. He doesn't really have any responsibilities anymore, and therefore I guess he just enjoys his time in Alola. And maybe that's why he acts more goofy than ever before, because in my opinion he sees his time in Alola as vacations. On the one hand, it's a good thing for Ash because he finally has some free time away from all the responsibilities, but on the other hand, his current relationships with his Alolan friends, let's say it definitely feels different from any other friendship before. And with that little remark, that's the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this little discussion video. What's your opinion on my little discussion slash theory? You agree? You disagree? Please tell me. And just like always, see you guys in the comment section down below. Bye guys!